Welcome to Spectrum TV News at 2. I'm Raymond Etan. We're coming to you live from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari Uniform Retirement Age Bill to President Buhari. Plus, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky visits The Hague after new strikes in Ukraine. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. In this afternoon with Nigeria's leader, President Muhammadu Buhari has said the Nigeria Agenda 2050, which aims to ensure that the country attains a per capita GDP of $33,428 per annum, will place the country among the top middle-income economies in the world by 2050. The president made this known during the inauguration of new long-term national development plan yesterday in Abuja. Buhari said the plan has the vision of a dynamic, industrialized and knowledge-based implementation. Successive administrations will find the document useful in the delivery of electoral promises.
The steering committee is the superintendent. The preparation of the Nigerian Agenda 2050 and the National Development Plan 21-25 to succeed the Nigeria Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017-2020. Charge the steering committee to prepare inclusive plans that will cover all shades of opinion and ensure even and balanced development, as well as put in place necessary legislations for continuous implementation of plans, even after the expiration of the tenure of successive administrations. These legislative imperatives were identified binding constraints to plan implementation. In the steering committee is the superintendent. The preparation.
Away from that, the Minister of State agencies. The minister, who was represented by his special advisor, Zakari Lawal, during the sensitization workshop on the use of geospatial data for development planning and decision-making in Abuja, said the federal government has made provision for monitoring and evaluation of projects in the country, noting that it will be replicated for geospatial information system. According to Agba, government wants every project to be. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has struck out the 1.84 billion naira money laundering charges brought by the federal government against Nicholas Ashinze, a former military assistant to former National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki, and 8 others. The amended 13 counts were thrown out by Justice Okonabang following the withdrawal of the charges by the Attorney General of the Federation. Justice Abang discharged the 9 defendants 7 years after they were arraigned. He held that no court of law could question over or terminate any matter before any court of law. In the meantime, the federal government has announced it cannot be stopped from giving development to the people, following a motion by the Senate directing the government to halt the demolition. Hadi Sirika disclosed this during a briefing after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House in Abuja. Sirika, who believes the Senate is simply an advisory council and cannot drag issues with the government, says they have a reason for overheating the issue. The Aviation Minister further maintained that those who were contacted in other countries. And now from the Red Chambers, the Senate has approved the restructuring of the controversial 22.719 trillion naira ways and means advances, ostensibly to ensure that the government does not shut down. The upper chamber gave the approval during a plenary session after considering a report from its ad hoc committee, which noted that the federal government repeatedly borrowed from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, in the process exceeding the 5% threshold of the previous year's revenue, as stipulated by the CBN Act. Leading the Senate, he explained that a special committee was set up by the Red Chamber to scrutinize the fiscal document, put up a report after critical analysis, and review submissions made by the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, as well Ways and Means advances, were met with suspicion and opposition by federal lawmakers in the Senate. To the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives has directed the National Assembly clerk to transmit the bill for the Constitution and message of the bill by the Sokoto State House of Assembly, thereby meeting the provisions of Section 9, subsection 2 of the Constitution for two-third approval of state assemblies. The reps further urged the Gombe, Jigawa, Kebbi, Kwara, Plateau, and Taraba State Houses of Assembly that are yet to forward their resolution on the bill to do so 5 to 70 years. In a separate development, the Air Peace flight carrying over 270 Nigerian students from Aswan Airport in Egypt has landed at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. The NAPC-13H jet, also conveying about 80 persons, landed moments later. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs Sadiya Farouk disclosed that the Nigerian evacuees received the sum of 100,000 naira each and an additional 25,000 naira worth of recharge cards and 1.5 gigabytes of data. Farouk stated that the cash and other gifts given to the returnees were done to make them. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has said that it has secured the final forfeiture of 324 properties recovered from the Kano State Pension Fund trustees. Justice Yarako of the Federal High Court in Abuja gave the order of final forfeiture while ruling on a motion by the EFCC to that effect. The Director, Media and Publicity River Street, 122 houses at Sheikh Nasiru Kabara, Amana City, and 38 houses at Sheikh Khalifa Isha Garbiya City, all in Kano State. Now recall that the EFCC had told the judge that the properties were reasonably suspected to be proceeds of unlawful activities of the Kano State Pension Fund trustees. Let's head to Africa, where the United Nations has passed Sudan's warring factions to guarantee safe passage of humanitarian affairs after 6 trucks were reported Sudan's warring parties within the 2 to 3 days to secure guarantees from them for aid convoys to deliver relief supplies. Griffiths, in an interview, said the meeting could take place in Khartoum, the capital, or another location. The UN warned that fighting between the army and the paramilitary countries. But still in Africa, the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, the ECSL, has cleared presidential opposition candidate Samura Kamara to run in the June vote. Kamara, who was defeated by Julius Bio in the 2018 ballot, has been on trial since February for alleged corruption. He was charged in December 2021 for allegedly cleared him after his case was adjourned to July. The presidential opposition candidate under his All People's Congress (APC) is reportedly seen as the main rival to President Bio. And now on the foreign scene, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian President Vladimir Putin must be brought to justice for the war in Ukraine. Zelensky says he a different Vladimir who deserves to be sanctioned for his criminal actions in The Hague. Recall that the ICC in March issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin for suspected deportation of children from Ukraine. Meanwhile, the European Commission has set another international center for the prosecution of the crime of aggression in Ukraine would be set up in The Hague.
your attention and your respect for Ukraine, and I have felt today. Thank you very much. This is attention and respect from people who value freedom and do not tolerate.
Governor Vasily Golubev has said that fire broke out at a petroleum plant in southwestern Russia after a drone attack, the third apparent Ukrainian strike on a Russian fuel depot in 2 days. Golubev said the drone crashed into the construction site of an overpass at the Novoshakhtin plant near the village of Kiselevka. Now, according to him, staff at the plant immediately extinguished the fire and no casualties or injuries were recorded. But the strike caused TV News at 2. Still to come. Hibernian appoints former Leeds manager Brian McDermott as director of football. Please stay with us.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive, and how day 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories, and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
And now on business news, the Washington-based World Bank has appointed Ajay Banga as its new president. But the World Bank confirmed that Banga, who had a decade-long career in MasterCard, will take over from David Malpass as the next president. Now, the development lender disclosed that Banga is to tackle the toughest development challenges facing developing countries. Banga, who was the first sole U.S. candidate for the role of 14th president of the World Bank, is expected to resume duty on June 2nd, 2023.
To lead the World Bank at this critical moment in history. He is a renowned business executive that has spent more than 3 decades building and managing successful global companies that have created jobs and brought investment. President Biden.
Staying with Beijing, Director of the MPA, Mohamed Bello Koko, stated this in an interview with Newsman. Given an update on the recently approved Badagry deep-sea port, Bello said that proposals had been received for the establishment of other seaports in the country, disclosing that the agency had witnessed an increase in revenue by over 60 to 70% in 2023. But the MPA boss noted that the agency had witnessed increased activities in Calabar Port, adding that the MPA will ensure that the tariff trickles down to the end users. And now in health, a new study has suggested that engaging in breathing exercises may help reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. This can help lower the amyloid beta levels in the blood of peptides associated with the Alzheimer's disease. Now, according to the study, a brief breathing exercise that lasts for 20 minutes and done twice daily for 4 weeks, entailing inhaling while counting up to 5, then exhaling at the same count, can have a substantial effect on the body. It might expose Nigerians to the risks of recurring upper respiratory tract infection due to low immunity. Now, according to Obindo, who is also the President's Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria, the current inflation rate in the country is causing physical and mental health problems among Nigerians, expressing concern that many of them are presently unable to meet up with the basic life necessities. Now, according to him, some of the physical health conditions that could arise includes elevated or poorly controlled. And now in sports, Brian McDermott has been appointed as Hibernian's new director of football. The 62-year-old, who previously managed Reading and Leeds United, will begin his new role at Easter Road immediately. Hibs under head coach Lee Johnson are 5th in the Scottish Premiership, goals in a single season, as Manchester City returned to the top of the Premier League table by beating West Ham United. The Norwegian player is now on 51 goals in all competitions, 12 behind Dixie Dean's all-time English record, with a potential 9 games still to play. Haaland's latest effort. On our entertainment news, Afrobeat hitmaker Lax has released the music video for his single Zaza. Zaza is one of the singles. You'll see the singer showcase the album throughout Europe and East Africa. Still on entertainment, Ayo A.Y. Makun has announced the return of his Merry Men franchise. The comedian filmmaker took to social media to share the while new additional cast include Nadia Buhari and Sam Dede, while the rest of the cast and release date is yet to be announced. Reports say the new movie is expected to continue the original story for you at this time. Many thanks indeed for joining us. Don't forget, you can follow us on all of our social media platforms and do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website. Just search spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching the news at 2. Thanks for joining us. I'm Raymond Ita. Enjoy the rest of your day.